Hello everyone, ladies, gentlemen, and otaku alike. This is Recall Reviews. Recall here again. I recall it for you. Now, I meant it last week when I said I didn't really have anything planned after my Fate video. That being said, as it turns out that this day, September 26th, is Batman Day. Now, those who know me personally know that I am as avid a comic book fan as I am anime and manga. That being said, I'm mainly more of a Batman fan than anything else. Yes, I read my fair share of Superman and Spider-Man and even X-Men, but Batman has always been my number one. Now, one main reason being is he's such a rich character, and in the hands of the proper writers, you can have some absolutely amazing stories. That being said, today we're going to cover my absolute number one favorite Batman story. This will be the animated adaptation of Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns. So our movie kicks off with a clearly much older Bruce Wayne in a street race across all of Gotham, pushing his car to the absolute limit, clearly still living in his self-destructive ways. This leads his car to tumble and combust. Though, of course, we all know that Bruce Wayne is the Batman, so of course he gets out okay. This leads us into a news montage explaining the situation of the city.
Hideous slaying of a group of nuns last night, the latest in a brutal crime spree attributed to the Mutant Gang.
Crime is at a record high in Gotham. The city has gone to hell, and no one seems to be doing anything about it.
Death threats have once again been leveled by the mutants against soon-to-retire 70-year-old Commissioner James Gordon, who had this to say in response.
I've got one more month at this job, and I'd love to spend it nailing the mutants. If they want to take me on, I'm delighted. Come and get me.
Nearly coinciding with Gordon's retirement, tonight also marks the 10th anniversary of the last sighting of the Batman. Most of our younger viewers now think of him as a myth. Many others still debate whether his one-man war on crime was right or wrong. But this reporter hopes that wherever he is, he's enjoying a toast with good friends.
We then next have a scene where Bruce Wayne is wandering through the city, and as he's going by and seeing everything that's happening, whether it be on the news or just in the streets or even some newspaper clippings on the ground, memories from the past are creeping up again. We then see a much familiar sight as Bruce Wayne sees a Gotham City newspaper talking about two people who were murdered over a pearl necklace, much like Bruce Wayne's parents. It is then that under this Gotham City street light, two mutant thugs approach Bruce Wayne with the intent to rob and or kill him. And of course, Bruce Wayne's not going to stand for that.
Jeez, man. Spud's into it. So what? Slice and dice.
Come on.
Oh no. Can't do it when they into it. Blow this. Let's go to the arcade.
Yes, it is most likely as it appears. Bruce Wayne is disappointed that he wasn't attacked by those two mutants. That being said, we now end up in a scene where Bruce Wayne is having starts out as a pleasant dream, but you know, since it's Bruce Wayne, it's a nightmare from his past. This one being what introduced him to the world of the Bat. Flash forward a little, we are then brought to a scene where we see a doctor and a psychiatrist unraveling the now reconstructed face of Harvey Dent, also known as Two-Face. Now, with the introduction of Two-Face Harvey Dent into the story, I'd like to quickly say that when Frank Miller originally wrote the graphic novel in 1986, he carefully selected each villain that he would have featured throughout it, as they feature a progression through not only Bruce's story arc, but helps further the narrative of the story that he's trying to tell, as each villain is a symbol of a different aspect of Bruce Wayne's psyche. I'll get into it as it goes along. We now have Bruce Wayne flipping through the channels as the news is talking about more and more increasingly horrible things that are happening throughout Gotham. This causes Bruce to remember incidents from his past that led to him becoming the Batman. Key moment with his parents being killed in front of him.
You try to hold me back, but you're weak. You know it in your soul. You're nothing but a hollow shell. Rusty trap.
We then have a series of events that picks up right after Bruce dons the cape and cowl and becomes the Batman once again. And he's not holding back against anyone.
Someone thinks they're gonna mess with me?
We're then introduced to possibly one of my favorite characters in comics, Carrie Kelly. Now, Carrie and her friend are taking a shortcut home through an arcade in Gotham. Sounds like a bad idea, and you'd be right, because then this happens.
Chicken legs, licking legs, slice and dice.
Oh my god, Carrie!
I got the little one.
And about as fast as these assholes show up, Batman dispatches them each in an equally brutal way. Except for the last guy. You'll see what happens to the last guy. We next have a scene where Batman is trying to apprehend a group of villains in a car after robbing a bank, and of course we have the oh-so-classic scene where the veteran officer realizes Batman's back and they're in for a show. Batman sends their car flying. As the officers arrive, he exclaims, "These men are mine," and Batman proceeds to do what he does best. Gordon reactivates the bat symbol, and you find out Carrie's got a little more going on than what you think.
The guy's a fascist. No regard for civil rights.
I know. And people eat it up. It's like all that marching we did never happened.
Don't say that. We made a difference. Give me another hit of that, will you? You made sure the doors are locked, right?
I'll talk about this more in depth when I cover Carrie's character arc later on in the video. That being said, Bruce tells Gordon that it's Harvey Dent, once again in the role of Two-Face, running the series of robberies in Gotham, as well as threatening to blow up the Gotham Freedom Tower. Batman quickly takes care of Dent's men, as well as the bomb. You find out that Dent was just planning on killing a lot of people as well as himself. We then get the actual showdown between Batman and Dent.
I played along as long as I could, while you and the docs had your joke. You got everyone to smile and keep their lunches down when they looked at me, pretending I looked normal.
You think?
Cut it out. Just look at me and have your laugh. Get it over with. At least both sides match now, right? Look at me and have your laugh. Who are we kidding? They couldn't fix me. Nothing can change what I am.
You and me both.
it's stated that Carrie Kelly's been saving up lunch money from school to buy this Robin costume in order to try and escape the life that she has at home, as, you know, she passes her parents once again shooting up on more drugs. Now that Carrie has finally donned the Robin costume, granted, at this point, not yet Batman's sidekick, Batman. With that said, we're led into a scene where a couple mutants kidnap the child of a very rich person. And here's where we get into some of the controversy that this strings up with some Batman fans.
Should've got out of the way, Spot.
Back off or I'll kill him. Believe me, man, I'll do it.
I believe you.
I'll just let that speak for itself. We now have Carrie Kelly pretty much self-training herself as Robin. Acrobatics, building, jumping, so on. We then have a scene where Batman interrogates a man, and oh, you don't want to be this man. We then see sinister happenings in Gotham City as a man is trying to rob this woman when...
Eye sideways! Hoo! Ha! Look out!
We move from one lighthearted scene in the movie that was completely changed for the animated adaptation, and the scene played out much different in the original comic, entirely different events, to a scene that also doesn't happen in the comic but adds a whole lot more darkness to the movie. Batman finds out that a US general has been supplying the mutants with weapons, and, well, I'll just kinda let this explain itself.
You've been selling weapons to the mutants.
My wife. She's dying. And after all those years, they wouldn't pay for the treatment.
You sent them enough firepower to stage a small war. If it's war they want, I've got just the thing. Nice way to end your career, General.
We then have a scene where Batman dusts off the old Batmobile, which is more of a tank, definitely more than what the Arkham Knight Batmobile will ever be. And we have a scene where Batman, in his tank, is fighting an army of mutants, and it is one of the most glorious things in, I think, modern cinema.
For an order. Kids today, no respect.
We now have the first encounter between Batman and the mutant leader. Now, the mutant leader's role, as far as being the second villain, is now that Bruce has come to terms with his duality of Batman versus Bruce Wayne, he now has to come to terms with the fact that he's not a young man anymore, and the mutant leader represents what Bruce was in his prime, now Bruce being a 55-year-old man far out of his prime. This is an example of how he used to be as opposed to how he needs to be in the future. That being said, it's actually a pretty well choreographed fight sequence, and it is very cool to watch. Batman's trying to stay as strong as he can in this fight and doing the absolute best of his ability, but he's just no match in this case for the raw power and speed that the mutant leader has, where Batman goes into this fight trying to play it off like he used to when he was a young man. He just doesn't have the durability nor the speed to fight like that anymore, and this is where the second stage of the story comes into play, where he has to come to terms with that, which you'll see later on. We have a scene that makes us think a little bit of Death in the Family, where the mutant leader is wailing on Batman with a crowbar. This leads us into a scene where Carrie steps in at the last second and saves Batman, which gives him the opportunity to put the mutant leader down with some expanding foam. After that pretty brutal beatdown, Carrie, concerned, runs over to check and see if the person who brought some form of a new meaning to her life is still alive. Carrie somehow manages to pick up this 300-pound mound of muscle and help walk him over to the Batmobile. This brings us into a scene where Carrie helps not only set Bruce's arm, but a scene where Batman realizes that this is something that he can't do alone, at least not anymore, and he accepts Carrie as his new Robin. We then, back in the Batcave, see Bruce finding his strength again in the bat that started him on this path. Bruce then, after taking a little time to rest and bracing up his arm, just decides to once again suit up in his iconic gray and black, fully accepting Carrie as Robin, puts her on her very first mission to gather a crowd of mutants to this mud-hole water pipe where he will face the mutant leader in a final showdown. Batman has Gordon let the mutant leader out of his cell and deliberately sets him on a path that will bring him to this mud hole. And this is possibly one of the best scenes in the movie, as you get to see Batman really being Batman in the sense that, just how methodically he'll take this fight, as he's even things out with the way he put it, no one's very fast when they're thigh-high in mud. Coming to the end of the fight, the brutality is just so there. I mean, just look what Batman does to this guy.
Isn't a mud hole. It's an operating table. And I'm the surgeon.
The scene is just this glorious, brutal example of, once again, the Batman being the Batman. After the fade, you find out approximately 3 months have passed since Batman beat the mutant leader in the mud hole. We then see the president talking to a mysterious figure. And yes, this figure is none other than Aiko's father, Superman. We now have former police commissioner James Gordon giving his retirement speech, as well as introing the new police commissioner taking his place, Officer Yindel. And she immediately makes a statement saying she's pleading for Batman's arrest.
I hereby issue a warrant for the Batman's arrest.
Bruce and Clark meet up in front of Wayne Manor to discuss the fact that the president says if Batman's actions continue, he may need to step in and take him down personally. This leads us into one of the shit got real exchanges.
Go back into retirement. You're upsetting too many people.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you always have to be like this? You played right into their hands last time. When the parents' groups and the subcommittees came after us, you're the one they pointed to. You act like a criminal.
We are criminals, Clark. We always have been. You're still one, too. Only difference is you have a boss.
and you answer to no one. You know, we almost had this talk 10 years ago, when you wouldn't go along with the deal we made. Everyone else agreed. Diana went back to her people, Hal left the planet.
And Oliver, did he agree?
That's not how I wanted that to go.
He was all torn up about it too.
He made it necessary. Like
I'm about to.
Do you even remember why you retired?
I remember.
Look, either shut it down or one of these days someone with authority is going to tell me to come stop you. And when that happens...
When that happens, may the best man win.
Superman is then sent to deal with the foreign power military menace in the best way he knows how. Smash and blow up everything. Just like Metropolis. You find out that the main psychologist at Arkham Asylum, which yes, that was Arkham Asylum, decided it would be a good idea to get Joker a little bit of exposure by putting him on a talk show. Because nothing can go wrong when you put the Joker on a talk show. That being said, Batman's gearing up to raid the studio that night when he sends Alfred to go pick up Carrie Kelly, who is more than delighted to join Alfred in the car to once again don the Robin costume. We then have an awesome scene of Batman trying to get into the studio where the Joker is so he can stop him before anything bad happens. And of course, Yandel is like, we have to stop him. So we have a scene where Batman is fighting cops, and it is awesome. Because Batman beating up cops is always awesome. What makes it better throughout this whole scene is how afraid of him that they actually are, to which Yandel exclaims,
He's twice your age, son. Find the nerve.
So after numbers, helicopters, and firearms become a little too great for Batman at this moment, he bails. And of course, because the police stopped the Batman, the Joker went on to kill everyone in that studio. Starting with his psychiatrist. And now as things escalate with the Soviets, Superman once again continues killing more people. This time an entire military Navy fleet. You then find out that the Joker brainwashed Selina Kyle into brainwashing someone who works for her so she can brainwash a US general into jumping off of a roof into his death. Batman and Robin then investigate the main office of Kyle Escorts, which is the company that Selina Kyle had started. Because, you know, they find out that it was one of Selina's girls of who brainwashed the general. So then we find out that Joker has gotten a little weird. As, yeah, he's the one who dressed her up like that. The police bust in trying to catch the Batman, as Batman and Robin are now on their way out to the carnival where all of Carrie's friends from school are going to be, as that's where the Joker plans on killing a lot more people, as Robin almost falls to her death, and we actually have a pretty... Well, I'll just let this scene explain itself.
Good soldier.
This movie, but not just the movie, the book itself has many moments in it where it's a very somber, almost like very real scene of loss or what could be lost, as it gets you right into the characters' heads and in full-on detail explains every little thing. But who has time for going into that when we have Batman on his way to beat the shit out of the Joker? Joker being the third villain is absolutely perfect, and the reason for that being is Joker being the third villain instead of the last is because there's still something bigger to deal with, and as far as the escalation goes, Joker being Batman's main nemesis, and their showdown at this stage in the story is much more effective than him fighting Superman first rather than Joker. And as you can see, he's not holding anything back. He's out for blood this time. We then have one of Carrie's standout scenes in the movie where she takes down a bomb that the Joker set on top of a roller coaster with a slingshot because they're that powerful. Then we have a scene where the Joker's assistant is, well, strangling and effectively killing Carrie Kelly, and then Carrie gets her first real taste of what being a vigilante is, as she gets her first scene of actual death. We now have the final exchange between Batman and Joker as they meet in the Tunnel of Love in the Gotham amusement park. And Batman is just wailing on Joker, and Joker is loving this because this is the end and he knows it and he wants to go out with a bang. The suspense and atmosphere in this scene is absolutely amazing, as where Batman has Joker by the throat as the Joker's just taunting him while he's all bloodied as he's inflicting multiple stab wounds on the Batman, laughing maniacally while Batman does the only thing that he can. With that said, Batman only did enough damage in that neck snap to paralyze Joker from basically the shoulders down. And then we have the one real Joker scene in this movie.
It doesn't matter. I win. I made you lose control. And they'll kill you for it. See you in hell.
Batman, barely managing to escape from the police in his condition, somehow makes it far enough as to where Carrie can actually throw him a literal lifeline in this sense and pull him out of danger. Superman's sent to stop a nuke that was actually launched at the US base in Corto Maltese. Superman takes the nuke up into the atmosphere where it detonates, not only affecting Superman, but causing, well, it's basically an EMP at this point that destroys all of Gotham's powers, setting them into a pseudo-nuclear winter. Bruce, once again, despite injury, suits up to run basically crowd control in Gotham, as since chaos is hit, Gotham has no power, of course looting will begin. So Bruce is going off to maintain order and do what he does best. He goes to the dump where the former mutants, who are now the sons of Batman, are, and recruits them all as his own personal army, and exclaims he will train them all in due time, but tonight they have to rely on what they already know and their bare hands to maintain order in Gotham. Gotham is burning, the city is rioting, we have possibly one of the coolest shots of Batman on horseback riding in from a burning background. Him, the leader of the Sons of Batman, Carrie, all on horseback, delivering swift order to maintain what little there is left in Gotham, doing what needs to be done.
In the past, some of you will even argue that you can't work together. That's fine. Those people will stay tied up. And it will not be a function of which group you're in.
What is this, the Gestapo? He lumps us together with criminals? Shut up, man.
The rest of you can lend a hand to keep our city from falling apart. You can lead by example. Your choice. I'm sure you're all eager to help.
The words that reached those in need were met, and while this happens, Officer Yindel is watching from afar and realizes the importance of the Batman.
What are we gonna do?
Nothing. He's too big.
You now find ourselves a couple months after the initial event, and Gotham is still experiencing a nuclear winter, as now the president makes the order to send Superman to take care of the Bat problem. This reasoning is because the Batman did what the government couldn't in maintain order.
Into a canter. Crime Alley.
Batman now gearing up for his big fight against Superman, and Superman being the fourth and final villain of this movie shows the escalation of Batman coming to terms with his duality, coming to terms with his age and the fact that he won't be able to do this forever, putting an end on his story with his greatest nemesis, and now fighting the ultimate obstacle in his past, Superman, who represents America itself, who disapproves of the way that Batman decides to operate. Without giving too much away and without showing you this entire fight, we have one of the absolute best animated fight scenes between two superheroes that I have ever seen. I mean, this is a fight that has everything. Heavy objects being used, martial arts, explosions, environmental takedowns. This fight has it all. And what's best is, it's Batman versus Superman. With all that's going on, Bruce's plan that he set from before this fight began starts coming into play, where you see Superman standing somewhat triumphant over Bruce as he looks at the timer counting down. It's time for his plan to really come into action.
Now! It wasn't easy to make, Clark. It took years and cost a fortune. Luckily, I had both. You're feeling it now, aren't you? What the rest of us live with every day. Your own mortality. Don't worry, you'll survive. The kryptonite will work its way out of your lungs soon enough.
Bruce, your heart.
But I didn't have to go easy on you. A different binding agent, a stronger mix. I want you to remember that. I wanted to remind you to stay out of my way. In all the years to come, in your most private moments, I want you to remember the one man who beat you.
Bruce!
We now have Wayne Manor burning to the ground as we're shown a picture of Bruce and his parents, as Alfred watches outside the manor as it burns, along with the Wayne legacy. Alfred then suffers a stroke, collapses in the snow, and then dies. At Bruce Wayne's funeral, we're shown a scene that just expresses a little bit of the character's point of views.
Got some nerve showing up here. I know who killed him, damn you!
Selina, don't. It's no use. Let's go. Were you a friend?
I think so. I honestly couldn't say.
Sounds about right.
Though, of course, if we all know this story, Bruce took a pill earlier, which I lacked to include in here. Clark hears his heartbeat start up and knows what Carrie's about to do. And in this moment, Superman truly gets to be Superman and redeems himself to some way in letting this go by. Batman and Carrie walk into a cave filled with sons of the Batman as they plan to rebuild the Batcave in another location in Gotham, as Bruce will train them all into his own personal Bat army to keep not only Gotham, but the world safe. We then have one of those somewhat somber scenes that just kind of brings his whole story arc to a close.
Heard the schoolboy found you out.
It's alright. I think the message got through. As long as we stay quiet, he'll leave us alone.
You gonna be alright with this?
This quiet or mysterious? I spent 10 years looking for a good death. This'll be a good life.
Well, there you have it, everyone. This was the animated adaptation of Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns. That being said, if you want really the kind of true uncut version of this story, I would say read the graphic novel. If you're a fan of deep, gruff art that just has so much in it, I would say definitely check it out, because Frank Miller being one of my favorite writers and artists of all times. That being said, I'm not going to focus too much on the differences from the book to the movie. There wasn't a character in here that didn't mean anything. Harvey Dent representing the duality of Batman and Bruce Wayne, and him needing to come to terms with the fact that he needs Batman in his life, and he is these two people. The mutant leader representing Batman in his prime, and the fact that he can no longer operate the way he used to. As an old man far past his prime, he needs to alter the way he does things, and when he conquers a mutant leader, he does. Taking a break from the villains for a second, Carrie Kelly, growing up in a somewhat broken home, where her parents are drug users, and it's clear that she doesn't get much affection. Batman is her out from that life. Batman gives her the chance where she finds meaning in her life and can truly make some kind of difference. In turn, the same way that Batman saves Carrie, Carrie saves Bruce, in the sense that Carrie plays the role of the anchor that holds Bruce's humanity where it is, so he doesn't lose himself in the world of the Batman. Moving on, the Joker as the third villain, being the end-all be-all Batman villain. Their story finally comes to an end with the Joker's dying breath, and Batman can now move on knowing his greatest nemesis is gone forever. The fourth being Superman, who is the honest, true villain of this movie. Represents America itself, in the sense how America doesn't agree with the way Batman operates, but parts of it do. This is shown in the end, where Superman gets to redeem himself and truly becomes Superman once again, where he realizes that Bruce is still alive and lets him walk. That being said, the musical score was absolutely amazing. The voice acting was outstanding. It was, who would have figured that Peter Weller, RoboCop would be one of my favorite Batmen. Granted, as the fanboy I am, I would have loved Kevin Conroy. But this was a blast. This by far is my longest video, and those who sat and watched it from beginning to end and experienced this with me, I thank you all. I love you all. You are the people that I make these videos for. And all the support I can get from you means everything. Like, comment, subscribe, the whole shebang. That being said, I loved the opportunity that allowed me to, on a primarily anime exclusive channel, let me do a video on one of my absolute favorite characters, the Batman. That being said, we draw a close to the Batman, and next week we return to our regularly scheduled anime videos with Dragon Half. Tune in next time.